Other sampling designs. The basic idea of sampling is straightforward. Take an SRS, a simple random sample, from the population and use your sample results to gain information about the population. Sometimes there are statistical advantages to using more complex sampling methods. For example, one common alternative to a SRS, simple random sample, involves sampling important groups called strata within the population separately. These subsamples are combined to form one stratified random sample. To select a stratified random sample, first classify the population into groups of similar individuals, called strata. Then choose a separate SRS, simple random sample, in each stratum, and combine these SRSs, simple random samples, to form the full sample. Another example is multi-stage samples. Other sampling designs: stratified random sampling, cluster sampling, systematic sampling, and multi-stage sampling. Stratified random sampling. Divide the population into groups, strata, for example, states, provinces in a country, different majors, and take a simple random sample from each. Advantages: have individual estimates for each stratum. A variable measured gives more consistent values within each strata than within population, can get more accurate estimates of population values. If strata are geographically separated, may be cheaper to sample them separately, may use different interviewers within each strata. Stratified random sampling. Divide the population into groups, strata, for example, states, provinces in a country, different majors, and take a simple random sample from each. Okay, so there's a diagram of people. Two sets are a darker color and two sets are a lighter color, so I'm guessing these are the strata. And then it's showing you chose random, like 3 people from the 2 clumps of the darker colored people, just randomly, and then you chose 2 from the 2 clumps of lighter colored people. Cluster sampling. Divide the population into groups, clusters, take a random sample of clusters, and measure only the units of selected clusters. Advantage: need only a list of clusters, not a list of all individual units. Example: sample students living in a dorm at a college. College has 30 dorms, each dorm has 6 floors. 180 floors form the clusters. Take a random sample of floors and measure everyone on those floors. Cluster sampling. Divide the population into groups, clusters, take a random sample of clusters, and measure only the units of selected clusters. So you can see in the example, there's like 5 clusters of people, and then you randomly select 2 of the clusters to sample. Systematic sampling. Divide the population list into as many consecutive segments as you need. Randomly choose a starting point in the first segment, then sample at that same point in each segment. Example: list of 5,000 names, want a sample of 100. Idea: select one of every 5,000 divided by 100 equals 50 names. Divide the list into 100 consecutive segments of 50. Randomly choose a starting point in the first 50 names, then sample every 50th name after that. Systematic sampling. In a list of all elements in the population, randomly choose a starting point, and then every kth element is selected. So you can see there's a line of people, and you chose the second one, and then 3 later you choose, then 3 later you choose, and 3 later, and then 3 later, and so on until the end of the population. Multi-stage sampling. Sampling plan that uses a combination of sampling methods in various stages. Example: stratify by region of the country, then stratify by urban, suburban, and rural, then choose a random sample of communities within those strata. Divide those communities into city blocks or fixed areas as clusters, and sample some of those. Everyone on the block or within a fixed area may then be sampled. Recap. Simple random sample, so you just sample randomly. Systematic sample is you take every kth term, so you take the second one and then over 3, and then over 3, and then over 3, and then over 3. A stratified sample, you, out of the strata, you choose some random samples from each strata. And for a cluster sample, you would randomly choose whole clusters to sample. Sampling designs summary. Simple random sample. Every conceivable group of people of the required size has the same chance of being selected for the sample. Stratified random sampling. Divide the population into groups, strata, for example, states, provinces in a country, different majors, and take a simple random sample from each. Cluster sampling. Divide population into groups, clusters, take a random sample of clusters, and measure only the units of selected clusters. Systematic sampling. Divide the population list into as many consecutive segments as you need, randomly choose a starting point in the first segment, then sample at that same point in each segment. Multi-stage sampling. A combination of sampling methods in various stages.